Hello, I'm Dr. Brian Fraser, and in this video we'll be seeing how to create an alert dialog that extends a AppCompatDialogFragment to generate a dialog such as this. When I click the button, the dialog pops up, and we've got the buttons OK and cancel. If I say cancel, nothing happens, and in this case I say OK, it's going to change the text back on my main activity. So we're going to see how to get our dialog fragment to interact with our main activity, and how we can respond to a cancel, plus how you can do other interactions with your main activity. So to start with, we're going to create a project. I'm going to do it from scratch here. I'll do it for actually let me go back to here for a second. I'm going to target the API level 15. This will mean that I'm actually needing to bring in some AppCompat for backwards compatibility. I'm going to set up an empty project, and a main activity sounds great. So let me just bring over the empty screen here, and it's now built the project. So the first thing we're going to want to do is sort of set up what it is we're going to be sort of trying to have all of our content appear on. So I'm going to put some things on the main activity. Let's just stretch that over a little. I'm going to change this to say something along the lines of let's see, the message is, and we're going to, so let's have a look at why that didn't work. So we're going to, there we go, the message is such and such. We're going to put in a button that we can click on. Put it down here, just below it, and we're going to put in a text view that I can then set the text to appear on. Now I know from previous experience it doesn't seem to like this, so we're going to fix the layout. My problem in the layout at the moment is that my views overlap, and well, let's just do it this way. Put it on the right hand side. There we go. And let's give it a name here, something like message. And I'm going to have a button, and let's give the button a name of set message button, just to make it verbose, and set the message. So when I click on this, it's going to put up a dialog box to then prompt the user, and we're going to respond to that dialog box to do a few things for us. So to begin with, let's make it that we can build that dialog. So to build the dialog, there's two components you need. You need to create a new layout, and you need to create some Java code to back it up. So the first thing let's do is let's actually create our layout that we're going to need. So under Resources here, under Layout, I'm going to right click and say New, and then a new layout resource file. I'll give it a name, something like message layout. Sounds good. And then I can pick the root element. I'm going to pick what we currently have on the home, on the sort of main activity, which is going to be a relative layout. That seems like a good start, something we know and love. I'll click OK, and here we go. This is now it looks like an activity, but it's not going to be an activity. It's going to be for my message box. And so think of this as being much smaller than the full activity being displayed. So what I want to do here is put up some text. I can design this as fancy as I like, and so I'm going to actually toss in a few labels to start with, or pardon me, a few image views. So let's put an image view here, centered left side, and sure, I'll just pick this icon, looks fine. And let's bring in a new icon for me to work with. So I've got here a new one. I'm going to copy in a new image. I just did that on the off screen. And I'm going to click here and say right click and then paste. And it'll pick where to put it best. Give it a name. And so here is the actual icon I'm pulling in. This is from the Android Material Design set. And let's bring in a new image view then and stuff it on the right side. There we go. And now what I want to do is put in some text in the middle. So let's go back up here to the top. I'm going to drag in a text view, and I'm going to center it right on everything. I'm going to first off change the font size to be slightly bigger, and we can make this as complicated as I like. Let's just change the text to be something like going to set the message. Now you can see it starts to overlap things kind of funny here. Let's go and change this from instead of being my launcher icon, I'm going to switch it to the same one here to give me some sort of centered feel, a balanced feel. And the last thing I want to do is make this to not wrap the contents horizontally, but I'm going to make it match the parent, which now looks like it's going to stretch to the whole screen. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it snap to, let me see if I can zoom in a little. I'm going to make it snap to, if I can, the edge of this. There we go. There's one. And the other one I can make it snap to there. As you can see, this is not always an exact science. Anyway, well, why don't we do it this way? It takes a bit of fiddling to get that to work. But that's sort of the basic idea. You might have to go in here and start to edit some of the before and after tags in the XML. But that's not the whole point. So once we've got this thing that we want to display, I might want to set the gravity, for example, to make the text centered. So that's the layout that's now going to be displayed as part of it. The next thing I want to do is create some Java code to back it up. So I'm going to go up here in with my main activity. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say new Java class. And I'm going to name this something like message fragment. So this is actually going to be a fragment. It's not an activity. A fragment is sort of a portion of an activity that can be shown to the user. It's much more transferable. And the next thing I want to say is extends the class AppCompat, and I want the fragment, or dialog fragment. And I can pick which one I want, and I'm going to take the AppCompatDialog. Make sure it's V7 is the one I want here. And the rest of the defaults I think are okay. I'll clear off some of the comments it sticks in for me that I don't care about. Now, I need to create an OnCreateDialog method that's overriding the base implementation. I could type it all out, but the easy way to do that is hit Alt-Insert and then override a method. I'm going to create the OnCreateDialog, and I'm going to hit Enter. And it gives me the default implementation. I don't need any of this base stuff, so let's just put that in here. What I now need to do is kind of go through three steps. I'm going to, first off, create the view. And basically that's going to mean I'm going to load up this message layout that I just created. Next I'm going to create a button listener. And then finally I'm going to create, I'm going to say build the AlertDialog, which is actually going to build an alert dialog for me in this fragment. So let's go through this step by step. First thing I want to do is create the view. So I'm going to say view v equals, I can say layout inflator, and I want to pick just a standard layout inflator will do fine for me here. I'm going to say dot from, and I have to give it a context, so I have to say get activity. Remember, I'm not actually in an activity in this class. I'm sort of a dialog fragment, and so I need to get back to that activity. Now on that I can then say inflate and pass it a resource. So I'm going to say r dot, and I want the layout, and here I want to say, well, my message layout is what I'm building. And the message layout here is what is named over here. Import the view, and I also need, I need the extra second parameter, so I'm going to say Control P. It'll show me I also need to pass in a nullable view group. I don't care about that, so I'm going to set it to null. Okay, so now I should be happy. This is out of easy and common errors to forget that null. I want to create the button listener, so this is just a dialog interface on-click listener. So dialog interface dot on-click listener. I'm going to call this listener. Much the same way we would create a listener for a button. So a new dialog on-click listener. I'll hit enter and it automatically inserts this. So this, if you recall, is going to be an anonymous class. This is actually instantiating myself a new class here that implements the on-click listener. This method is now going to be defined here inside of my anonymous class. And I can put sort of whatever I want to do in response to that. So I could put up a log message just to show it works. Let's start with that. log dot info. I'll put it in just say tag. I need to specify some tag, and then you clicked the dialog button. We'll come back and make this do more interesting things. Alt Enter to import that. And then finally down here I actually need to build it. So I'm going to use called the builder pattern, and we're going to allow it to build us a fully formed alert dialog. So return, I'm going to say here new alert dialog, sounds good, AppCompat again, dot builder. Oops, now the one thing I don't want to have the brackets there, so dot builder. And I want to say get activity, so this will get the activity that I'm in, and then I can keep calling dot and a whole bunch of things. So you see here like dot cursor, dot custom, dot set icon, and so on and so forth. What I want to do is I want to first off say dot set title and give it some sort of string as my title, so something like changing the message, just changing message will be the title on this alert. I'm going to set a view, so set view, and here you'll note that it's got two options. I can either pass it in the ID of the view, so I could have in fact gotten rid of all the stuff up here to start with, but by doing this I now actually end up with an inflated view that I could work with and kind of customize if I wanted to. So I like this kind of framework a bit better. So I'm going to pass in the view, and then finally I'm going to say set, or not finally rather, but I'm going to say set positive. You can say set positive, negative, and neutral buttons, so there can be up to 3 buttons by default on the dialog, and depending on the layout and the country and so forth, it'll put the OK button in the right spot. So that's why they use the positive and the negative buttons. So set positive button, because we want to kind of allow the user to acknowledge it. I'm going to just pick an OK, so I want to say OK, but I can do that using the Android.R.string. And here's all the different text that Android has defined for me that'll be internationalized nicely. So I'm just going to go with OK. And then finally, I need to pass in a listener. I just happen to have made one up here. So here's my listener. So I'll put in listener. Now once I've done all of that, I need to actually build this thing. So I say create. And that, at the end of this, goes through putting together an alert dialog for me. Okay, I've got no errors here, so that's looking pretty good. The last thing I need to do is actually show this. So let's go back to the main activity, and I need to kind of connect up to those things I put on the screen. So let's go to the main activity, activity main. I called this one set message button, so let's plug into that. Set up set message. I'm going to create the method, so that was Alt Enter, and then I need to create the button. I will I'll figure that out in a second. Find view by ID r.id dot set message button. And here I'm going to import the class on button, so it was an Alt Enter. On the button dot set on click listener, new on click listener, hit enter again. And now I need to put in the code to actually make this work. So I need to say fragment manager. I'm going to call this one manager equals, and I don't want to just get the fragment manager, I want to get a support. So if I get fragment manager, it gives me back one that's sort of in the native OS. But because I want to support AppCompat for backwards compatibility, I need to get support fragment manager. So that's an important thing, otherwise some later code is not going to work. And I can say here the name of my class, so I named it message fragment. Let's just call this one dialog equals new message. And this is just a standard class, so I could do anything else I wanted to it. And finally, I want to call dialog.show. Now here I need to pass in the fragment manager. So I'm going to say manager, and then I need to pass in the a string rather. And the string is kind of at the moment just anything you like. So I'm just going to put in here message dialog. It'll allow you to track which dialog is which. And just for fun, I'm going to put in a log, log.i, tag, which I normally make more interesting, and something like just show the dialog. And this will give you an indication as to when things are happening. Import that class. So I'm going to run this in my currently running emulator. And while that is building, I'm going to come into here and I'm going to launch. So I moused over that and I'm going to go to the Android monitor, and it's going to bring up my logcat. So I'm going to clear all to start with. Okay, let's kind of wait till this all loads up. Clear all, and I'm now going to go back to the emulator. If I say set the message, it puts up my message box here. We can see here the tag has already shown, so it's already gone through the process of showing the, calling the show on it, and my code has carried on. So it's not like it's waiting for it, it's going on in the background. So this is, of course, it's sort of overlapping this, so maybe we'll fix that in a moment. You're going to set message. So I'm going to say OK. And it did nothing, of course, because we didn't tell it to do. All it did is it put out this tag message. So now we want to go back through and let's first fix our layout a little bit. So my message layout, I'm going to get rid of the box at the bottom. Let's put that on the side, and then, yeah, right. Good enough. So we wanted to make that message, when you click on the OK button, instead of just putting on a log, we wanted to do something interesting. So what I was going to do is actually kind of reach back onto my previous activity and change some text on the screen, for example. So in order to do that, I need to kind of get that activity. Now I don't know a priori or offhand exactly which activity it's going to be. This message fragment could have been launched from anywhere. Now it will only be launched from one place, so I can kind of use that knowledge. But I can't, for example, call private or global or public methods on it because I've got no guarantee of getting exactly that one. So what I'm going to do is first off get the text view that I'm interested in. So text view, let's just call it TV, equals text view, import that. We'll come back to import in a second. Find view by I can't do find view by ID like I normally do because I'm not in an activity. I'm in an AppCompatDialogFragment. So I have to go get activity. On that, I can now call get activity by ID. I need to give it an ID, so I'm going to say r.id dot, and I think I called it something like message. That'll be my actual message. Alt-enter to import the class. And then on this text view, let's just set the text. tv.setText. Oops. Set text. And I'm going to pass in some actual text here. Hello world. Of course, better idea is pull it from the resource file, but that's another video. Okay, so now when I run this, we're expecting, oops, wrong button. Now when I run this, I'm expecting to click on the set message and see up here my actual message switch to hello world. So I get this message box and I'll say OK. So now it puts up a nice message saying hello world. Okay, so that's sort of moving along. What if we wanted to be able to kind of have an are you sure? Something like, let's change this message around here. So something like, are you sure that you want to do? Are you sure you want to set the message? And I now need to not just have an OK button, which would be deeply frustrating. It's sort of like the your application has crashed. OK. We want to be able to have something more. So an easy way to do that is I've got the set positive button here. Let's call set negative. Set negative button, android.r.string.cancel. And then we need to pass in a listener. I could build myself a brand new listener, but I've already got one. It's perfectly good. So let's just use the same one. Now at the moment, my code doesn't differentiate between which button was passed, but there is this which that's coming back to me. And that's going to be one of the defined constants saying, okay, is this the positive and the negative? So I can do switch on which. Now it's just an int, so it could be kind of any number here. You could pick the hard-coded number that it turns out to be, like case 1, but that's really brittle. So a better way to do it is to say, well, this is coming back from the Dialog interface, which you can find out via Google as well as I did. dialog interface dot, and then here are your options: positive, neutral, and negative. So let's say for positive, if you're on the positive, I'll put it in here like this. Don't forget your break. Case dialog interface dot negative. It came up with the default there. And I'm going to say, then just break. Don't do anything. I'll put in a comment here because it looks suspicious. Don't do anything. Just end. Because on cancel, I don't want to make any change. So let's rerun this and see what happens. So I click set the message. Are you sure you want to set the message? If I say OK, it's going to change. But if I say cancel, it comes back here, no change. So cancel, no change. OK, it actually sets the message for me. So that's starting to look pretty good. The one final thing I want to show is sort of doing any interactions you like with that, with the activity. Because you have access here to the activity. I can call getActivity. So I can call anything I like on that every activity has. And as it turns out, every activity has a finish method, if you wanted to say kill it. So maybe you got a button, something like close or cancel or something like that, and you want to ask the user, are you sure? So you pop up this dialog, and if they say OK, I'll comment this out for the moment. If they say OK, you can call getActivity.finish. And this will now close down that main activity that it came up from. So in this case, I'd change my message here to something like, are you sure you want to leave this screen? Because maybe this is some sort of important screen, like you're doing some banking transaction. Okay, now I'll come back here, rerun, restart it. I'll say set the message. Are you sure you want to leave this screen? I'll say cancel. No, this is what I want to do. At another time, okay, am I sure I want to leave this? Yes, I am. And then in this case, it closes the activity, which is the application, so the whole thing goes away. Okay, thank you very much for watching.